It has been told that in order for one to understand the present, he or she must look back at the past, because every future of the present is determined by the past. This truth applies deeply to the land called South Africa. Everything we see, feel, and experience in the modern era is, whether known or unknown, a direct result of history. And today we look at that history. The real, recorded, undeniable history of Southern Africa, before the arrival of the Dutch in 1652, and before the British ever set foot on this soil. Before foreign settlers came, the land was not wild. It was not empty. It was not disorganized. It was a land of kings, a land of law, a land of legacy. The indigenous people of Southern Africa lived in well-organized states. Each kingdom was governed by a paramount king whose role was not only political, but deeply spiritual. These kings served as custodians of the land. They oversaw law, justice, and the moral well-being of their people. Each community under the king was led by subordinate chiefs or family heads who ensured order at local levels. The society was disciplined, and its standard of living was decent and sustainable. In this world, land belonged to the king, not for his own selfish gain, but for custodianship. Any person who was granted land knew they lived by the kingdom's laws. To abide was to remain and prosper, but to disobey or disrupt order was to be banished. Obedience came with benefits. The people respected the crown not out of fear, but out of loyalty. Yet nothing came easy. Every man and woman had to work for what they had, their livestock, their harvests, their homes. But the foundation of their society remained the same, discipline through tradition. The African people were known for their hospitality. Foreigners were welcomed, not as enemies, but as potential brothers, so long as they respected the kingdom's laws. A person from another kingdom, or even another continent, could be given land and protection, but only if they were willing to abide by the same customs as the locals. This generosity, however, would later become both a strength and a weakness. The people of Southern Africa were not isolated. Their kingdoms were active participants in global trade. They traded among themselves and with nations from the far corners of the world. It is well documented that these kingdoms traded with Arab merchants, Indian traders, Chinese visitors, and even Persians. This is proven by coastal archaeological finds and early European records. And many people who lived near the trading ports were descendants of these intermixings, cultural and genetic. As time went on, some individuals within the kingdoms grew greedy. Instead of honoring the trade regulations set by their kings, they sought to profit in secret. They formed syndicates. They avoided royal levies. They colluded with foreign traders to bypass kingdom laws, some even selling people as slaves. And in doing so, they weakened the very foundations of the kingdom. These internal divisions, fueled by power and gold, caused the fall of great states like the Kingdom of Congo, Great Zimbabwe, the Mwina Matapa Empire, and the Changamire Dynasty. Long before the Dutch arrived in 1652, the Portuguese had already visited, traded, and shipwrecked in southern Africa. In 1589, the ship São Thomé was wrecked along the coast of southern Mozambique. The survivors recorded detailed accounts of the kingdoms they encountered. They spoke of the land of the Fumos, where the king was known as Nyaka, called Mnguni by the Portuguese, but Mbinguni or Mnguni by the local people. They wrote of a chief called Mokalapapa, leader of the Lutuli people, known locally as Ngababa. They recorded the kingdom of Manisa to the north, known to the locals as Munesi, and the kingdom of Anzatet to the southeast of Maputo, locally known as the Amazizi. Farther inland they found the kingdom of Ngomane, linked to the modern Ngomane. They described Nhampula near the Limpopo River, known as the Amapolane or Amambalane, and vast lands ruled by Monimpika, believed to be another name for Mnguni, known locally as Nombika. This entire region was called the land of the Makoma Tez by the Portuguese, a reference to the Amagumeda, a royal house. Today, the surname Nyaka still praises itself as people of Gumeda. The São Thomé was not the only ship to wreck. In 1593, the Santo Alberto met the same fate. Survivors of that wreck told stories of incredible wealth and order in the villages they reached. They met a chief they called Luspens, likely a mispronunciation of Lusibonze, perhaps Oonsibonde or Sibukulu, known as the father of many Nguni nations. They described villages with copper ornaments, over 100 cattle, and more than 120 sheep. They saw people wearing red beads, armed with iron and assegais. Other names recorded: Inhakuna, likely Nakana; Ikwininana, possibly Nkwanayane; the chief Vibo, north of Mzimvubu, likely Mvobut; and Mabomboru, possibly Mbumbulu. Near the Drakensberg, they met Makongolo, a version of Mangwe-Kulu of Mzimkulu River. They even recorded a chief named Panjana, possibly the ancestor of the Nkala family, who still praise themselves as Mpanjana. One king's name stood out, Mutwarondomadale, a powerful name consisting of Mutwa, Madondo, and Medzala, still carried in Nguni praise poetry today. And lastly, they spoke of Malangana, a great king believed to be Madabane or Ndabane, of the Amantungwa, ruler of the Tagwa dynasty, born from the ashes of Great Zimbabwe in the 15th century. Yet these stories do not end with peace. The Portuguese, though welcomed at first, often failed to abide by local customs. In one instance, the survivors of São Thomé tried to buy a cow. At first, the locals agreed. But when negotiations fell apart, the Portuguese captain decided to take the cow by force. This single act of disrespect led to bloodshed. The villagers fought back. Some Portuguese died. Others were abandoned. These were not random acts. They were a response to the refusal to respect the kingdom's laws. This pattern would repeat again and again, European traders refusing to obey the law and conflict erupting as a result. Long before 1652, the people of southern Africa had already established kingdoms, trade networks, systems of justice, and international relations. History never lies, and history cannot be robbed. We do not tell these stories to judge. We tell them to remember, because the past does not disappear, it merely waits for those brave enough to look back.